So, 8th edition reveals. How about them so far? Hey, what's happening, Wargamers? Welcome back to another one of my rambling thought videos. I'm going to be talking about 8th edition once again. I haven't been doing a lot of these ones just yet, simply because of the rapid-fire nature of the reveals. I think we've been getting a new rule reveal almost every single day, and then we've been getting we've started seeing some faction spotlights every second day. So we're seeing a lot of content, and honestly, it feels like if I were to try and make a video for every week's worth of reveals and whatnot, it's going to be nonstop until 8th comes out. But it seems like there's a lot, but there's not enough at the same time. So I've kind of let 2 or so weeks go by before I've wanted to attempt making other ones. But hey, we've seen a lot of interesting stuff come out. Right off the bat, I wanna talk about one thing that I'm really happy is gone. Is the weapon skill chart. Anyone who has played with me, be it Fantasy, 40k, any of the specialist games, most of them know my hatred for the weapon skill chart. It has always bothered me beyond belief that no matter what your weapon skill was, you could have a weapon skill 10 versus a weapon skill 1. And that guy with weapon skill 1 is always going to be hitting you at least on a 5+, and the guy with weapon skill 10 is never going to be hitting on better than a 3+, unless of course you're Karn, who got his wonderful always hits on a 2+ ability. That's gone. I am so ecstatic about that. That is gone. What they've replaced it with now is a much better just this is what you hit on. And I really like that because, first off, it goes all the way down to hits on a 2+, which I think there's a lot of models and units in the game that really deserve to have that hit on a 2+ option available. It doesn't address all my concerns with what the weapon skill chart was, but you know what? This is a huge improvement in my mind. So I just wanted to get that right off the bat. I'm sure a lot of people are probably shaking their head, going, that doesn't matter. Who cares? But that was always kind of a big thing for me, so I'm really happy about that. But on a similar vein, the first thing I want to talk about is the whole strength versus toughness chart, and this one's a really cool one because I'm sure, as everyone has seen, we now have the revised chart, and if you see me glancing off to the side, I'm just conferring with notes here. But right off the bat, I mean, the fact that it's all predicated on a plus-minus system based on where your strength is in relation to the toughness. So equal strength toughness means 4+, so even odds. And then you start seeing better odds to wound as you get stronger, and then you get really good odds to wound as you get double or more the toughness in terms of your strength. So it's making those really high-powered weapons really just super effective, and it does go a long way to address some of the issues we were seeing in 7th, where just strength 6, strength 7 weapons were becoming a lot more predominant. We were seeing them almost everywhere. So even the Space Marine profile, which is supposed to be like the baseline that they've created in the game, even that was getting really easy to hurt. So yeah, this has been a positive change. The really nice thing is that it scales so wonderfully. Unlike the old chart where eventually your strength would top out against a certain toughness, this one does allow Games Workshop to actually start reasonably looking at toughness 10, 11, 12, and so on, because it's all based upon the opposing strength and where that toughness is in relation to that strength. This is great because it means something like a las cannon is still going to be super effective against that Space Marine, against that guardsman or whatnot. But it's going to make people think a little bit more about it, and maybe want to target that tank with it, or that monstrous creature, as opposed to maybe taking out that elite infantry, simply because you're going to have that higher strength to toughness ratio. So I really like it. I think that is an absolutely fantastic change to the game, and one that I'm really looking forward to seeing hit the table and seeing how it plays out. The next quick thing I'm going to talk about, and these are no real particular order outside of how I have my notes organized in front of me. We've started to get a bit of an idea on the power level scoring rating system that they've talked about, the one that's more based around like narrative, casual style games. And this one's an interesting one because we've seen the rubric. Was it the rubric? Yeah, the rubric Marines come out with a power level of 8+, with all their wonderful options. They have their aspiring sorcerer. We're seeing some rules for force weapons, some of their special weapons, some of their special rules and whatnot. Versus the ubiquitous tactical Marine squad of a 5+ power level. So we're starting to get an idea on where all these stand, and so far I think it's, I don't want to say it's an elegant system to do it, but I think it's a simplified system that works in the sense that we're actually seeing the minutia of, well, this melta gun is worth X points, this plasma gun is worth X points. We're seeing that go away for the more casual narrative-based games, because in the grand scheme of things, those may or may not take into effect. I've had a number of games where, you know, I've tooled up a squad with a couple plasma guns, like if I was playing Skitarii or something like that. You know, put 3 plasma calibers onto your ranger squad or whatever, and you know, they get blown away in turn 1. So even though I paid out the nose for those 3 plasma calibers, they had absolutely no effect on the game beyond maybe making my opponent want to target them first, just so I didn't get them into rapid fire, or well, I guess assault range on those ones because they were assault. So yeah, seeing the power level is a really nice touch that I really like, and I'm glad that they give us that option that we can just do quick point tallies in that regard. Now, of course, I am really interested to see what the more detailed point system they have brewing up is going to look like for the more competitive scene. But this is a very promising start for that one. The other thing that we saw on the Rubric Marine thing, aside from the power level, we're starting to get an idea of what some of the keywords are, faction keywords and whatnot, and we can start sort of gleaning what that might mean for the game as a whole, as far as, you know, allying forces in, or how special rules might work with each other. So yeah, again, we're starting to see some really solid reveals come out of Games Workshop, and we're starting to get a feel for how the game is going to go along. Some of the other stuff that we've seen that I'm really enjoying. Well, we've seen some of the new profiles come out. We've had some ideas of what some of the vehicle profiles will look like, or at least as far as things like the Dreadnought or the Leland Rust battle tank. And once again, I mean, they talked about the shift to a toughness, wound, and save system, much like a standard profile for these things. And so far, I'm liking it. I mean, I might have gone a little bit higher with toughness on some of them, just to make it a little bit more similar to the existing value of say an armor 10 and whatnot. But with the changes to the strength toughness system, you know what, it works. I know a lot of people are complaining about, well, you know, an auto pistol can now hurt a Land Raider and whatnot, and my only response to those sort of complaints is, you know, calm down, relax, wait to see the full game, and just do a little bit of math hammer on it. I mean, I'm hardly the person to be doing statistics and math, but there's so many people online. You can join any Warhammer group on Facebook, and chances are somebody has done the math on it to tell you just how many of those auto pistols you're going to need to potentially take down even just, say, a Leland Rust battle tank. And sure, you can do it, but you know what? You're going to have other things you're going to want to fire at, and it's going to be so prohibitive as far as models go. I'm sure you might get the lucky shots off every so often, get one of those Tom Hanks moments from the end of Saving Private Ryan where he's just unloading his pistol into the tank to see it explode. You know, let's ignore the bomber flying overhead. So I mean, yeah, that's gonna happen, but it's not gonna happen to the frequency or with the reliability that some of these people are so terrified of. So yeah, just wait to see the whole thing in context, and you know, make some calls at that point. We've started seeing some more of the weapon profiles come out. And again, you know, I'm really liking what we're seeing. One of the big things we've seen, heavy weapons, obviously, you can still move and fire them, but instead of needing 6s to hit, it's now just -1 tier to hit, which is fantastic change. It makes things like heavy weapon platforms a lot more attractive and usable. So I mean your Devastator Marines, or your, in my case, my what are they, not the Repentia, the Retributors, the Retributors for Sisters, or heavy weapon teams for Guard or something like that. These units are going to become usable again, because as it was when you were snap firing anytime you moved, they were not worth the points to put them on the table, and that was really unfortunate. Because having those mass amounts of fire go across the table are always just fantastic, and it promoted a very stationary style of gameplay. So I think we're gonna see more mobility as a result of this one, and I think that's kind of an overall theme we're seeing to a lot of these rules. The change in how heavy weapons fire, the ability to fall back out of combat. And just the movement stats coming in, I think mobility is going to be a big factor. Some of the other really cool things we saw, combi weapons have changed in the sense of that it's no longer an either or and a one off. Combi weapons, you're always getting that other weapon shot. Not only that, but you have the option of firing both in the same shooting phase at the cost of a -1 modifier to your to hit. And again, that is massive. That's a huge boost for anyone with a combi weapon. So Stern Guard squads, depending on if we don't see too much more changed on them, that's a huge buff for them, which is really cool. Especially if you can figure out a way to twin link them. We've started seeing some more profiles, like for instance the Melta gun. The way Melta works now is what is it? It's when you're within half range, basically you're rolling your damage dice twice and you're choosing the better of the two. So you're having a little bit more control over dealing those massive amounts of wounds to powerful creatures and whatnot. So again, really solid, really nice change on that one. Let's see what else. I know there's something else we're talking about. So as with the loss of templates and the flamers now being a D6 assault, we saw a change to the battle cannon. This one is, I think it's bittersweet for some people, especially if they love their templates. But I've seen a lot of people mourn the loss of the pie plate versus D6 shots, and I have to say that if your opponent was new to the game or they didn't quite understand the mechanics of it, sure, you could get a lot of hits off with your battle cannon template, but I think in the grand scheme of things, changing it to a heavy D6, I think it might actually end up being a net gain. Now again, I haven't done a lot of the math hammer on this stuff, but at the same time, it's hard to say for certain what the final abilities are going to be like, because we don't know what sort of modifiers the guard might be able to pull into play as far as orders go or other things like that. But yeah, I think changing it to heavy D6 is a nice solid change, because again, it's allowing you to hit a monstrous creature or a vehicle multiple times and get multiple rolls of that D3 damage. And just in general, like even with the template, like again, unless you were going up against an inexperienced player, usually you might have only been getting 3-4 guys on it anyway. I know in my experience, I rarely let my opponents get more than that against me, unless I was like really bunched up and I didn't have much option. So, in my opinion, at worst it's a lateral move. At best, I think it might end up being a net gain for the guards player on that one. But again, this is all subject to what actually comes out with more of the rules. Some other things as far as faction spotlights go, we've been seeing some really neat stuff. Obviously, we've seen the Tau come out. We've seen how their marker lights are changing. They're not quite as powerful as they were before. Now I believe it's just giving you a small modifier to hit. We've seen talk about the I think it was the Storm Surge and the Crisis Suits, where now they can fire all their weapons, which just gives them an obscene amount of flexibility in that regard, considering how many weapons each of those platforms can actually carry. And so we've seen some neat things there. And again, it's in a lot of cases I think it's lateral. I think the loss of the marker light's real utility is going to be made up from the fact that Tau have just so many guns that they can fire at any given time. That's kind of big. One of the other factions we saw, and this one just came out just before filming this actually, is the Dark Eldar. There's been some word on that one as how they're going to be changed. Things like the Raider and the Venom and whatnot, those are going to be allegedly a lot more effective. I can see something like that. The old Armor 10 open top skimmers and whatnot are really going to benefit from the switch over to toughness, wounds, and saves and whatnot. So I think we're gonna see a bit of a return of the viability of Dark Elder, which again, really nice. There's also claims that that witches and incubi are going to become a lot more useful as well, with witches getting this really neat ability, which essentially locks your the opposing unit in combat as long as the commander of that unit can't win a roll off against the Dark Eldar player. So it's not a perfect way to lock them in, but it's a fantastic way of keeping those units locked in combat potentially, and just letting the witches go to town and do their thing. So we're starting to see some more fluff related stuff make its way into the game, in the sense of how these units should be represented on the field. So really excited about that. There's some really cool stuff coming up, and I feel like I'm forgetting something. There was a really big reveal. What was it? Oh yeah, the Primaris Marines. Holy crap! First off, true scale Marines. However you want to look at it, these guys look massive. They are a beautiful kit. I am looking forward to getting a couple boxes of them and going to town with them, because they are gorgeous. As of right now, they've said that they're going to be usable with pretty much any Space Marine faction. Specifically mentioning, obviously the Codex Marines, but Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and I believe Blood Angels was the other one that was mentioned. No word on Grey Knights, but at the same time, Grey Knights, whenever they've talked about something being available to all Space Marine chapters, all Codex chapters, and whatnot, usually Grey Knights aren't included in that catch-all term. So I'm not expecting the Primaris Marines to be in the Grey Knights. But again, it's hard to say until we actually see what comes out with the rules. And as far as rules for the Primaris Marines go so far, we've seen the Intercessor Squad. Be careful with that one. It can very easily become a word you don't want associated with your game. But we've seen them, and their unit profile is pretty typical Space Marine, but they have the addition of an extra wound and an extra attack over their smaller cousins, as it were. It's hard to say what the overall difference in power level is going to be until we see them on the table. There's some decent stuff, things like their bolt rifle, which has a rend ability attached to it, which we didn't see on the regular bolter, at least not that I recall. So yeah, we're seeing that come out, and yeah, they are just gorgeous models, and hopefully my video editing foo is good enough that I can put some pictures up as I'm doing this. But just all in all, we've seen some really cool stuff. We're seeing them do some interesting things with the gameplay, with the mechanics, and we're seeing some interesting things happen with the lore as far as advancement of the lore goes. We have that giant rift of warp space rending the Imperium in two. Chapters like the Blood Angels are cut off from the greater whole of the Imperium. Guillemot is starting his new crusade with bigger, badder Space Marines that are going to start making their rounds in other chapters. Just in general, everything is still very positive. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about in this one is I want to address some of the concerns and others. I guess to put it not too lightly, some of the complaints we've been seeing come out. And I just want to reiterate, just wait for the full rule set to come out. Wait for all the reveals to hit. Wait for the actual launch of the product. Because right now, just getting worked up about a rule you might not like, or a reveal you don't like, or questioning some of the lore, the fluff you don't like, you're doing it in a vacuum. You're not giving a whole chance for the rule set to actually sink in, to see it all in context. And I think a lot of people are knee-jerk reacting to what we're seeing so far, and they may or may not regret it down the road, but you never want to make a rash decision, especially when you've put as much time, as much effort, and as much money into this hobby as many of us have. Sometimes it's best just to say, okay, I'm not too keen on what I'm seeing so far, but you know what, maybe something will come out down the road. Because I gotta say, like, I've been playing this game for a very long time, and not as long as some of the people from Rogue Trader and Second Edition and whatnot, but I've been playing the game for a very long time. I've seen a lot of different editions, and honestly, at no point have I ever felt that any of my stuff has ever been rendered invalid. I've always been able to keep playing. I've always been able to keep enjoying the game. And I just hope that others can do the same. And it's a matter of just, take a deep breath, let the rules come, see what's going on with everything, and just, make your decision based on that. So that's all I got. You guys have been listening to me ramble now for the better part of 20 minutes. So, if you stuck around, thank you very much. I'm glad you care about what I think, or maybe you just wanted to have some background noise, or maybe this just hit an autoplay or something like that. But either way, thank you very much. I definitely love hearing from all of you, so leave your comments below. Call me out on anything that you think I got wrong or whatnot, or if you have any comments or discussions and whatnot, I'd love to hear them. And of course, if you want to keep seeing more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that like button, because that definitely gives me an idea to keep doing this. So I got a couple more videos being planned for down the road and whatnot, and obviously I'll keep coming back with 8th edition stuff as more information comes out. And of course, keep watching the channel for more painting videos. And as always, guys, happy wargaming!